Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Monday, the 13th of October. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which, surprise, surprise, is actually slightly up on the day. The old adage, or the recent adage, that Trump always chickens out, is something that maybe people who had a sleepless nights over Friday and Saturday, and even last night, might have forgotten. But that would appear to be the case on his China threats. And in fact, what happened in the end, the FTSE bounced near where we were looking for potential retracements at 94.20, in fact, the low 94.27. So actually, in the end, not quite as bad a retracement from the peak level 95.77 as we were fearing. Obviously, that could still happen, and that could very well be the case. But 93.50 is the potential support if we break 94.20, 93.50, the old August-September resistance zone. On the upside, top of the channel there, up to 9600 now, if we can remain above 94.20. RSI still well above neutral 50 at 59, which is in a good place. Next on the list is the DAX, and even here, we basically all we've effectively done is we didn't even actually fill the gap from the beginning of the month, the gap 24,170 or so, and actually bounced above that, which is actually a bullish sign. I've got the top of the channel there heading for 26,000. Looking at that by the end of next month, while we remain above the 50-day moving average, just under 24,000, a bit of an RSI 50 plus rebound in the mix as well. So looking actually pretty strong. Onto the Dow, and here obviously we're waiting for what will happen next when it opens, but you can see here that it was previously suggested or feared that the 50-day line could be the support area as it was at the beginning of August, and it looks as though that's going to be the situation now, so 45,400 or so. Above that, still looking for progress towards a target as high as 48,000 by the end of next month. If you're cautious, maybe you want to see this market back above the old September support there, 45,600, before assuming that we're back in position on the upside. The negative, though, here has been, or is, the way the RSI is down to 39, which just sort of fell like a stone, which was not a good thing to do. So still a chance of another leg down towards the old July resistance, maybe 45,000, before we go up if we don't hold the 50-day line later today. On to the cryptos, and despite horrible stories of people succumbing to the stresses and strains of rug pull, in fact, as I said, I think yesterday, the rug pull here actually not as bad as many previous rug pulls. Maybe a lot of people overgeared near the highs, expecting 130 and 140 on the upside, but so far, actually quite a good performance. Triple bounce there around 109, and then back above the 50-day line, which I think, if you look closely, is rising at 114,300, and looking for basically a break of the old resistance 118, and then obviously a retest of the highs. But at the moment, the main story here is that dips towards the floor of the channel around the 110 mark look as though they can be bought into. Moving on to Ethereum, which has been disappointing to say the least, and here actually one can sort of actually cancel that comment, because the bounce here rather better than what we have seen at the Bitcoin situation. So back above the old 3850 support, and back in the channel there, the floor of the channel there around 3940. Above that, obviously we've got the 50-day line 4354 was the initial resistance, and then hopefully back to the recent peaks through 4750 over the next week or so. But the key here probably staying within that channel there around 3940. Moving on to gold, and here it has been a victory lap for this market. Obviously, we're waiting to see how that opens today, but got the top of the channel there, that resistance line projection there from October last year, 41.65. That's our target for as soon as the end of this month, while we remain above the old target, or the old price channel target, around 39.10. Moving on to the stocks, and the charting certainly working on this one, which is Altyn. Don't look at this very much, but it was rather boring, really, just a rising trend channel. But top of the channel there up to £11.70, looking for that by the end of next month, while we remain above the recent support zone around £9.10. Interesting situation here with, or conundrum rather, with uh, Empire Metals. Here, a battle between those who believe in the Lassonde curve and those who don't. Here, it's interesting that we see the shares actually breaking that line of resistance from last month through the 53 pence level. Above that, obviously, another move to the low 60s. 61, 62 pence, which is resistance on the way down. But obviously, if you're a Lassonde person, you would suggest that that was the Lassonde peak at 80 pence, and we're due for a period of retracement. But at least in terms of the chart, while we're above that 50-day line at 47 pence, Empire Metals simply resuming the uptrend and the rising pattern that we've had within that trend channel from January last year. On to eco buildings, which seems to be actually building something these days, which is nice. Here you can see that we've got the shares, we had the shares in a falling trend channel. You can see at the top of that channel there around 5.6 pence. If we can break through that, then the next level up could be up as high as 9 pence by the end of next month, especially with the way that we've had an RSI 50 plus rebound. With the 50-day line rising, we've pushed through the 200-day line as well. So there's a chance this time of a move towards 9 pence. Although obviously this is one of those companies where you always feel a certain amount of trepidation in terms of a rising share price and the risk of a fundraise. Here we've got Great Western Mining, which is in a rising trend channel base. The top of the channel there, right, meeting the 200-day line there towards 1.8 pence. We're looking at that by the end of next month, while we remain above the latest support for the shares, around 1.3 pence. Helium One is next, and here a rather better picture. Obviously, nothing from Tanzania because so far there hasn't been much in the way of helium from Tanzania, but at least we've broken the 50-day line there at 0.42 for the first time since July, and it looks as though we're in a rising trend channel, top of the channel there at 0.65. I'm presuming the company's raised enough money for quite a while, so there won't be a placing if we anytime soon, but at least on the charting basis, 0.65 valid while we're above 0.43 on an end of day close basis. On to hVIVO, which I haven't looked at for ages. You can tell why from the chart, because obviously it's not been a great situation, but there was just the first sign that perhaps the shares will join the great biotech revival of 2025. Top of the channel here at 9.2 pence, maybe looking for that by the end of this month, while we remain above, or if we can remain above, September support at 7.4 pence, or 7.5 pence maybe to be more precise. Next on the list is a situation which has certainly been enough to silence the skeptics. In fact, even Thursday, Friday's pullback, blown away by today's RNS. Here you can see we're looking for 1.7 pence. One can maybe even push that up to 1.8 pence by the end of this month, while we're above recent support at 1.2. Ideally, we stay on the right side of 1.3 pence ahead of a move up to 1.8 by the end of this month. Obviously, funding and all the signing of funding due in coming days. On to Mkango, which I think I looked at over the weekend, and it's gapped up again. We've been looking for up to 70 pence basically by the end of this month, and we're still looking for that while we remain above the floor of the gap at 59 pence. And then it may be time to raise the target. On to Tiger Royalties, which had an update today, which I'm guessing that most people don't actually really understand, but they pretend they do. Here we broke a line of resistance there around 0.86, and we basically held that area looking for the 200-day line at 1.36 by the end of next month as a best case scenario target. All that staking and other sort of jargon maybe might do the trick, but let's see if it does. Finishing off with Zinnwald, and here looks quite exciting, really, with that break of the 200-day line. We've already gapped up off the lows, unfilled gap to the upside off the low, so that is very encouraging, as is the rising 50-day line, and as is the way that we haven't had to seek support at that 50-day line. We just went straight through it at the beginning of the month, and as you can see, all either neutral or positive candles. They're very positive candles, opening at the low, closing at the high, for the whole of the last couple of weeks. Looking for at the top of the channel there at 8 pence by the end of this month, and maybe even sooner than that. Looks like a very strong rebound. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.